my first year running my own roadside flower stand, and boy, did I learn more than I expected. Hey everyone, if you are new here, welcome. My name is Christy. I am located in Massachusetts, Zone 6A, and today is the end of December. It's actually December 19th of 2025, and I thought I would go ahead and do a little summary of my first year running my roadside flower stand. It was something that wasn't expected, especially someone who could not keep a plant alive, to say the least. And I decided 2 years ago when we bought our dream house to bring my farm share to our house. And I was just a veggie grower, decided to bring the cut flower garden to my house. And boy, did I not realize how much I loved growing flowers. And I decided to sell them because I loved growing way too much, like I feel like a lot of people like to do, and dipping my toes into selling flowers. So thank you for joining me today as we come to a little overview of my first year running my roadside flower stand. I have some notes in front of me and broke things down to talk about why I started, what I felt like went well, what I would change, and what is going to happen for the year of 2026. So the reason, like I said, I started selling flowers was because I had a farm share for a few years. And as I had more kids and they got older, it got a lot harder to get there and get everything I needed to get my money's worth, and not having my kids having a full-on temper tantrum in the middle of August on a hot, sunny, humid day. So I figured, let's bring my farm share to the house. So for the first year, I made 11 garden beds, which I did vegetables, and I did them again this year. And then I decided it was time to bring the cut flowers, because that was actually my favorite spot, and that is where my kids always lost it, was when we were in the fields cutting flowers. They were always running around. I was losing them. And, you know, your patience wears thin after a while when it is a 90-something degree day in August. So I wanted to bring the flowers to my house. And in doing so, I grew way too many. I did the winter sowing method. I just actually loved growing flowers, and I was really good at growing vegetables. So I gave flowers a try. And then I was like, I have way too much. What could I do? I went into this like YouTube rabbit hole of selling flowers at a roadside flower stand. And I said, I definitely can do that. So that is what we did. My season started super late. It started in mid to late July. I had to till all of my beds by hand. We had trees cut down in April and May. So it really delayed me getting my cut flowers going, especially because I relied so heavily on my dahlias. I thought they would be blooming come early July, and it was more towards late July and August. We had just like this weird wonky year with growing things, and everything was just such a cool start that it took a long time for everything to start growing. Another reason why I loved being able to start a roadside flower stand was I could just sell them from my home. I am a full-time teacher. I have 2 kids under 5. So doing markets wasn't realistic for me. So I figured, why not start a roadside flower stand? I contacted my city hall and asked the zoning department how that worked, if it was okay if I had a structure. And they said as long as it was under 200 square feet, I was good to go without a permit. And I also asked if I could sell things without a permit. And they said as long as it is grown in my garden and it is not processed, say like food, for instance, I could sell it with no permit as well. So I had the green light from my city to go ahead and do this without any kind of permits or letting them know. So that was amazing. So I didn't fully commit until I had this information in hand. We are a big farming community here in our town. So I think that kind of worked into our favor. We have, you know, cows and pastures all over the place. We're surrounded by them, which is really cool and awesome. So I was happy once I got that go ahead green light email. My dad built me my flower stand and I painted it. And yes, we just kind of took off from there. So the area that I am growing in is super small. It is just off to the side. We have so many large pine trees in our area that unfortunately I am very limited with what has sun. So we did take some trees down, which took some time. I would say early March, late March. And so I couldn't start going and getting my rows in until mid-April, when we had our April vacation from teaching. That is when I just went nuts, and I did about 2.5 rows, I would say, and then I added some on later in the year. So I have about 4 rows and then one that kind of like L's out along my playground, and that gets all of the sun throughout the day, but we will be going ahead and extending, which I will come to soon. As I mentioned before, I work full time, so everything was at night. I would just eat dinner. We would race outside with the kids. We would be watering. And then I would sell on the weekends. So all of my selling was on Saturdays and Sundays, which was nice. So I put everything out on Saturday at 9 a.m. I let everyone know, did a little sneak peek preview ahead of time to get like the energy flowing with what was to come. And then I put them out at 9. And then if I had anything left over, they would go out on that following Sunday. And another reason why I liked having a roadside flower stand, it was like a very nice low pressure way of seeing if I could sell them. I didn't expect to have, well, I would say I was hoping to have more of wrapped bouquets, but my stems weren't quite long enough. So I did mason jars. I would buy my mason jars in bulk on like Walmart. It actually worked out way cheaper than instead of just going to the dollar store. So I got some nice ball 4-packs of the 32-ounce mason jars, which I used. I liked using the regular mouth because the wide ones, you would have to put in more flowers to get it to stand well. And I unfortunately did not focus on having filler flowers and foliage. So that kind of didn't work to my benefit. So regular mouth worked really well. And this upcoming year, I'm really hoping I can work more on wrapped bouquets. What I grew. So I grew a lot in my winter sowing milk jugs, actually. And then I did a lot of indoor seed starting. Mostly it was dahlias. I got a lot of my tubers from Costco when they had the long field packs. I think it was like $15 or $18 a pack. So I bulked up those in April. It was also my birthday month, so I asked for a lot of dahlias for my birthday. I did a lot of zinnias. I did sunflowers, and I had a little bit of straw flower and celosia, but not too much. A lot of marigold, which was really helpful, especially for the foliage, and cosmos too, which I liked the greenery. And I also used a couple of other things here and there that I actually had some perennials, like my echinacea I had from years past, and some of my perennial black-eyed Susans really helped as well. But just some of those main things like dahlias, zinnias. Oh, I had some yarrow as well that I had from years past, which if you check out back in the fall, we grew some more yarrow to hopefully get ready for the spring so I could bulk up on filler flower. And what didn't go as planned, I would say, was having such a late start. I didn't have anything for the spring. I didn't have any of my cool hardy annuals. I tried growing snapdragons. That didn't really work too well. I tried growing stock in the fall. It bloomed a couple weeks later than expected. It bloomed, but just not when I had flowers to pair it with because of our first frost came, actually around our average first frost, which is going to be around October 15th. So I had stock, but later on, same thing with my straw flower. It kind of bloomed later on. Some of my snapdragons kind of grew, except I grew some that I got from Baker Creek, and it didn't tell me like what variety it was, if it was a 1, 2, 3, or 4, unfortunately. So those didn't grow as planned, but that's okay. So we are learning. This year I basically got everything from Johnny's. I also got some seeds from Florette when she had hers for zinnias, and from the Gardener's Workshop as well. So now we're going to talk about how my stand worked. And to be honest, I was actually a little nervous. So I did an honor system. I did have a cash box that was available, and I also had a few different areas where I had a QR code to send money via Venmo. And we're in a very small town. Like I said, it's like a farm town. It's lovely people, but I was just a little bit nervous to see if people would actually pay. I don't have any kind of cameras or anything set up. Again, full honor system. And I will tell you, between all the arrangements I have sold and all of the holiday wreaths, I have never had anyone steal. Fingers crossed it stays that way. And everyone paid. And I even had people that would actually pay more and leave a tip, which I thought was super sweet. So I was very fortunate enough that I didn't have to worry about anything, anyone stealing or anyone taking things and not paying. So I did do, again, the honor system. Now, I don't want anyone coming at me because, again, this was like, I run off like the seat of my pants. And when I do something, I just dive full in. And sometimes I don't think about what I am doing, but I also do take into account that I have like absolutely no experience. Now, I did do a farm share where I would pick flowers, but I had no idea on how to keep a good vase life. I really just invested in a lot of books, online research. YouTube is like literally my best friend. And so I was pricing my mason jars, which I found definitely on the cheaper end. But again, I didn't know if people would actually come out. I live on not a main road. It does take people quite a little bit to drive out to my area. I do have a lot of local people in the neighborhood next to me that do come, but I would say because where I live, a lot of people do have to drive kind of far out to my stand. But I did mason jars and I marked them for $10 a jar. Now, I did this based on that I had absolutely no idea what I was doing. I didn't know if I was harvesting things at the correct time. I did not have full-on bouquets at first where I felt like they were worthy of being priced more. I always second-guessed myself. I was very frustrated at first. I didn't know if it was a lot or if I was not doing enough. So I definitely feel like now that I'm starting to get into the groove of things, I definitely know it's a very low price point. But like I said, I had people that would give me $15 sometimes too. People would return their mason jars, which I thought was very nice of them. They were wrapped. I wasn't just putting out a mason jar. So I did have like a nice full-on presentation. I just really wanted to have like that marketing set, like you're coming, you grab, you go. Also with the mason jars, they were more of like a front-facing display. So when they would take the sleeve off, it wouldn't have the full effect of the bouquet going all the way around. It was just more of like a front-facing. But I definitely know that I'm going to do 2 different price points next time. But yeah, so I did mine for $10. I would say there would probably be anywhere between 10 to maybe 14 stems, depending on what it was. I would try and do at least 2 dahlias in there or 1 big sunflower. And then I would have just my zinnias in there as well. So I did feel like, yes, I underpriced myself, especially in my first year, but that's okay because I felt like I was just learning. So I know that they are definitely worth more than I put, but again, starting out. So don't come after me, but I was just very happy with just seeing if people would come out all the way to my flower stand to purchase. So with my flower stand, I would have it run every weekend. I would put them out on Saturday at 9 a.m. I would always at 5 a.m. post a video of all the flowers. I would do it on my kitchen island and I say, look, 5 a.m. it is time to start making mason jars. I would on Thursdays and Fridays harvest everything, and then I'd put them up here in our master bedroom. And I actually put it by one of our AC vents underneath the table. So it stayed cool, but the air wasn't actually just blowing on the flowers, so they wouldn't get damaged and they stayed nice and cool. I would have them in a type of hydrating solution, and then I would make my mason jars every Saturday morning, put them out at 9 a.m. and then at 7:30 p.m. when it started to get dark, we would bring everything inside if there was some left, and then I'd put them out again on Sunday mornings. And then I actually sold out, I would say about 95% of the time. If I had a couple of leftover, I would give it to like my mom or something to take home, or I would always bring a jar to work. All right, so what sold really well? So what actually sold really well was come end of August, the beginning of September, were my fall inspired mason jar bouquets. And that would be with sunflowers. I would use coleus as my foliage. I actually got it for free from the nursery down the road when they were closing up shop. She gave me 6 ginormous plants. I'm like, what am I gonna do with these? But that as a foliage, it lasted, I had customers saying 2 to 3 weeks, I kid you not. They would last so long. It would include sunflowers, it included my perennial black-eyed Susan, and it would also include my coleus for the leaves as well. And just those 3 things in there, 2 to 3 weeks of vase life, people were thrilled with those. So those are what always actually sold first when they were available. Again, I just had a lot of dahlias and zinnias, so I felt like color palettes that did really well were like my deeper wines, or if I did whites. So also I forgot to mention this one thing about my mason jars. And one thing about my mason jars is none of them looked the same. They were all uniquely different. I have a very hard time right now, I was saying, is like mixing my colors. So I would do like a whole like pink and peach color palette, whites or burgundies. So everything kind of matched through and through. And that was with my focal flower, my filler flowers. Everything kind of was in the same color palette. I found though that again, the fall tones, like with the sunflowers, with those nice yellows, and then the coleus that I had was actually a nice maroon, and it had like a greenish yellow center to it. So I'll put some pictures up, but that was always the one that was flying off the shelf, which I was just like actually shocked with. And I was trying to get as much as I could out on my flower stand every single weekend in these nice fall color tones. I also did really good this year with wreaths. So again, like I said, I am the fly off the seat of my pants, go all in. I made wreaths for myself before, just foraging out in my woods. And then I did a few at my flower stand. I think I made about 17 of them with just what I had from my backyard. So that was with some hemlock, and then I had some white pine. Later, I did add in some arborvitae as well. And then I did have some extra from the Home Depot when we got our Christmas tree. I went into where they were just going to toss at the end of the day, and I took all of the extra branches that they cut off from the Christmas trees, and those sold so well. I can't believe it. I actually ended up selling 63 wreaths, and I wasn't going to do them like at all. So I really lucked out with that, and definitely will prepare a lot better next year because I was just so overwhelmed making Christmas wreaths. So that did really well. It was super unexpected. Some of my challenges that I had was definitely that I work as a full-time teacher and I have kids. Watering was very challenging. Sometimes harvesting, I kind of got the hang of things towards the end of the season with harvesting certain things on Thursdays, the rest of the things on Fridays. And then sometimes I would just do some last minute harvesting at 6:30 in the morning and let things condition super quick. Probably not the best practice, but sometimes I just need a few extra things and I would just grab them. Or I'd be going out Friday after the kids go to bed at 8:30 at night with a lantern and just harvesting things, or my floodlight constantly jumping back and forth to get that to go off so I could harvest. So I would say it's just time management because I do work. I'm gone from 7:40 in the morning. I don't get home till about 5 o'clock at night. Then you have dinner, you have to get the kids ready for bed. So I say like time management. I really want to work on some way of helping my watering go better next year. Unfortunately, right now, I don't have the funds to do a drip irrigation. So I'm hoping to look into some sort of overhead like sprinkler system that I can do right now. And then down the line, once we're hopefully able to expand a little bit more, I can do a drip irrigation. So that was definitely hard for me. Flower bloom time was also hard. I definitely did not expect my dahlias to bloom so late in July compared to last year. It was like a few weeks later. But again, we had a very cold start. I remember it was still the beginning of June and I was bundled up. It was still very cold here. And I was even like wrapping like my tomato and my pepper plants with tarps and stuff in the middle of May. It would be about freezing. So that definitely affected my bloom times. I also did not have anything ready in the spring. And everyone kept asking me when I was going to open up my flower stand because I was talking about it all spring. And I was like, oh, hopefully June. And I was like, oh, hopefully mid to early July. And then it was like, I think July 26th is actually when I had my first flower stand. And that was just cutting all my hydrangeas basically and having that and some lisianthus ready that I purchased from the nursery down the road at $1 a pop. So I actually opened probably earlier than expected because I just had my hydrangeas and lisianthus that I got at last minute. So I probably didn't really have any flowers until August. So I was not expecting that. Especially zinnias, I pinched all of mine, which delayed the bloom time. I pinched all my dahlias too. So I think this year what I plan on doing is pinching half of my zinnias and dahlias. But I do have a lot more that I do plan on growing. So I'm hoping that I can work off of the bloom times a little bit better. Underpricing, I would say, is also something I'm going to be working on. So I probably will be still doing my mason jars because I think people really like the grab and go and the uniqueness. But next year, I really want to be able to offer a wrapped bouquet at a higher price point. It'll be a lot more bulkier. Hopefully my filler flower will also help. So it will take up some more volume and some foliage is what I'm really working on. Another thing that I plan on working on is making sure I have enough filler and foliage. So I kind of went a little bit heavier on filler A lot of celosia will be grown. I got a lot from Johnny's and Floret, and I plan on having more yarrow that we started in the fall. And foliage, I made sure I had some different kinds of cress coming in. I am growing more marigolds because I actually really love marigolds for the foliage. And same thing with cosmos. I found myself harvesting a lot of that. I have more basil, so I can get that in there as well. So I'm trying to go a lot heavier on those. I actually relied on my first year seedling dahlias at the end of the year for foliage because I had some that I wasn't planning on saving the tubers. So I'm like, heck with it. I'm just going to cut the greens, and they helped fill out a lot. So that is something that I took in really heavy account. I also loved having coleus. So I have some seeds that I plan on growing here. And I figure if I don't do a good job, because I actually did it 2 years ago, but they didn't get too big. I might just be the variety that I picked. I can always just go down the road when she closes up in July and grab some of hers because they were beautiful. They were like really tall. So I'm trying to keep that in account, that I just need things to make my bouquets look fuller and larger without having to use more of my zinnias, my sunflowers, and my dahlias to take up more of the bouquet to make it look fuller. All right, and some things that I would do differently. So I plan on planting more. It's kind of crazy to think about because I have the same amount of space, but what I plan on doing next year is actually huge. I am not going to be growing all of my vegetables. So when I started my YouTube channel, it was more for at-home gardening, and we are going to be moving more kind of towards the flower farming aspect. So I have 11 garden beds that I use for my vegetables. I loved growing my vegetables, but I tried selling them at my roadside flower stand, and cucumbers went really well, but like tomatoes and stuff, even though they're probably cheaper than what you could get at another farm stand, they just didn't really go, and I was just giving them away. So this year I am going to only be growing things for myself, and I'm going to be using containers and my cattle panels for my vegetables. And the 11 beds are actually going to be used for flowers. I got rid of my raspberries and blackberries. I gave them away to a coworker who was thrilled to have them. I kept one raspberry plant for my daughter. Those did really well, but they just took up so much space. So, and they're kind of getting a little bit crowded, especially my raspberries. They're just going everywhere. So those 11 beds will be going towards ranunculus that I plan on growing. So I can have some spring crops. I am going to try and attempt growing lisianthus by seed because unfortunately I can't afford to do plugs at this stage. And I'm hoping that since that gets so much sun, I can put like my good zinnias there, like I'll be getting from Floret. And I'm just growing more. People loved my zinnias. I know zinnias are hit or miss for some folks, but everyone loved the zinnias. So this year I'm going to be growing literally all the colors. I didn't really stick to a color palette. I was thinking of doing it, but I would have some people that did the nice, bright, vibrant colors. I would have some people go for the more pastel colors. So I literally got every single color, I kid you not. In the Benry's Giants, I got some Oklahoma as well. I got the Queenie series. So I went super heavy on zinnias. I went super heavy on sunflowers. So I made sure I got a lot of the Pro Cut series. So I'm hoping I can go ahead and time them enough so I can start some trays every single week in my greenhouse because I unfortunately can't direct seed. I tried so many times to accept the chipmunks and birds would get to my seeds and dig them up. Even if they started to sprout, they would just dig them up, clip them, and go for the seed. So I have to start all of mine in trays and then plant them out. So we kind of got a handle of that towards the end of the summer. So I am going to be doing like the lighter colors, and then I got more of the true yellows and oranges, and then I've got some for the fall too. So I'm going to go really heavy on sunflowers just because those have a great vase life, and I feel like everyone just loved the sunflowers as well. And I went really big on yarrow, feverfew, and celosia too to get some nice fillers in there. So, but definitely zinnias, and I'm taking a humongous risk with the lisianthus. I ordered a lot of different varieties, but I really just love seed starting. Like that's just where this all came from, is I love growing seeds. I don't know, it was relaxing. It was fun to me. It was like a nice challenge to see how I could grow them. So now it's just like fine tuning in. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to go all in and just try and grow lisianthus because the flowers are just beautiful and they have such a nice vase life. So I'm hoping to save those like higher ones. Like I do have a lot of peony plants way before even thinking of selling them. So like things like that, just to elevate my more expensive wrapped bouquets, which I'm hoping for this year compared to my mason jars. And another thing I'm doing differently is trying to aim for spring. I planted a lot of daffodils. I didn't get tulips. I honestly am probably like the only person that probably doesn't really care for tulips. I love daffodils, so I went really heavy and planted a lot of daffodil bulbs. I dug up a lot of my perennials and I actually gave it to another one of my coworkers and planted a bunch of echinacea that I had for myself and put it in her new property. And I took that area and I put all new compost there and I put daffodils. So I'm hoping that goes well. My parents have a 30-year-old plus lilac bush and that has the most beautiful stems. So I'm hoping to harvest from there. I actually took a lot of the young shoots from their lilac bush and I transplanted it here. So I'm hoping in a few years it'll do well. I have a lot of hydrangeas. So I'm hoping I can push more for earlier spring. I am going to be having like snapdragons. Oh, how did I not talk about that? I have tons of snapdragons that I'm hoping for. I tried getting many different of the groups from 1 through 4 so I can have a nice staggered season. I definitely have way too many seeds than I can probably plant here. So we are going to be really experimenting with spacing. I noticed that like my zinnias that I planted about, 9 inches apart, I probably could have gotten away with like 6 and with some of the varieties, especially because of the sun. So that is something I'm going to be doing. And I really want to focus on a bouquet formula. So again, I will have my unique mason jars that I had before where they're all a little bit different. And then I really want to have a bouquet formula for a higher price point where they will be wrapped. Hopefully my stem length will be a lot longer so we can make that happen. And give people just kind of like a different option because some people would come to the stand and be like, oh, you had nothing left or there was only one left. So I would have an average of 15 to 18, I would say, mason jars out every single weekend once I started having more production with my flowers. And I would like to offer more than that in the 20 to 30 range. So I'm hoping that with having more flowers, we can do so. Some proud moments that I had was I actually ended up having a lot of repeat customers. I had one specific customer that was always there at 9 a.m. So my house is with this nice little 1 mile loop. So a lot of people walk by. So I had some repeat customers through there. Even like my coworkers or once parents, because I am a teacher, started finding out that I sold flowers. They would put in some orders, which was really nice. And like, it was nice when I would have some of like people that I would least expect to wanting to put in an order asked for one. And I was like, okay, man, I must be doing a pretty decent job if I'm getting some orders put in by them. So that was nice. I also love that my kids had so much fun helping me out. They were out there watering with me. They were out harvesting with me. They were out checking the flowers with me all the time. They would always help me stock the stand, putting the signage up, helping carry the mason jars, even though it kind of like made me super nervous with the glass that they would drop it. But they absolutely loved being a part of it. And so I think that's what also was nice. It was something I could do with my kids. They helped me plant. They helped me weed. I mean, they were there through everything. So that was always great to see. And also, I think it was nice that people just really enjoyed the flowers. When you go to the grocery store, you're used to a certain type of flower. And then when you come to, say, someone that is growing them in their backyard like me, and you can have different varieties like the dahlias. I think everyone was just really amazed by the dahlias and like the different varieties and the color and the beauty with them. And like even like the zinnias, I would sometimes just have at the end of making my bouquets just like, 15 random stems that I would just throw in a bunch of zinnias. And like, my husband would be like, okay, that's my favorite. Let's see who gets that one. And I'd pick my favorite. And it was fun to see, which went first. And sometimes it was just that random 15 zinnias that were thrown into a mason jar. It would be like one of the first few that sold, which was kind of fun to see. So I think just seeing what people liked would be like shocking compared to like what we thought. My husband always picked the one that was always gone first, which was actually really funny to see. But yeah, I think what was just nice is just seeing that I could really actually do this. So it was kind of, crazy to everyone be like, oh yeah, I'm going to start growing flowers and selling them. They're like, what? I'm like, yeah, I know I can't keep a houseplant alive, but I'm going to be able to do this. And seeing towards the end of the year that I did a decent job and, I was selling out towards the end. and I was growing my business. Like I was having more people join my business page to stay tuned with updates, which was really nice. Same thing with the wreaths. You know, I was having pre-orders, which I thought would never happen. It was really nice having pre-orders than just relying on hopes that someone would drive by or just see my Facebook posts and go and grab them, like I said, because I'm just not super close to like a downtown area. Our town doesn't even really have like a downtown, you know, area. So you do it is kind of a drive for some people. But yeah, just some overall thoughts is just that it was a very fun experience. It was very stressful at times, but I'm still learning a lot, and I feel like, you know, I'm just sometimes just biting off too much that I can chew, but somehow making it work out in the long run. I'm hoping that we can expand. We are looking into knocking down some more of our backyard, leveling it out so I can grow some more flowers back there. It might not happen until 2027, but we're just trying to get some estimates, see what we can do so that way I can expand, because I would love to grow and maybe one day sell to florists, you know, do farmers markets on the weekends. I'm just really enjoying the flowers. I am a hard worker. I like getting my hands dirty, and sometimes it's just like the peace and quiet of just, you know, being outside and listening to nature. It's really relaxing, I find, even though it can be super stressful at times. It is kind of like my way of like getting out of the busy world. Because of teaching, I do have 20, 4, and 5-year-olds in my classroom, and it is loud, crazy, and chaotic, and we're just go for 8 hours a day. So when you can just go and like weed, that was just always really peaceful and calming to me. Even like on my lunch breaks, I did the flowers at my school, and just that 30-minute break of going outside and weeding and just having peace and quiet was just a nice way to reset. So that is what I took away from my roadside flower stand this year. Lots of things that upcoming. I am going to be sharing what I ordered, so you can get a little bit more of a deep dive into the seeds that I ordered, and then what I plan on planting soon. We're going to be taking on a lot of challenging things like eucalyptus and stalk again, and lisianthus, so we'll see how that happens. And winter sowing will be coming up before you know it. We can start, actually by tomorrow is winter solstice, so we can start soon, but I'll probably wait till January to do so. So if you have any comments or questions, please feel free to ask below. If you are starting your roadside flower stand and you're a little hesitant, I just want to let you know, just go for it. It doesn't hurt, because in the end, you can just have some nice, beautiful flowers for yourselves. And don't forget to like and subscribe and hit that bell button so you can stay updated. And until next time, happy gardening. Bye.